One of the most common requests I get is for videos covering some of the various species found within Star Wars. So today we're going to have our first video in the species entry series in the Datapad, looking at one of the most feared species of Star Wars, the Anzati. The Anzati came from the planet Anzat, located within the Mid-Rim, and which was discovered nearly 20,000 years before the rise of the Empire. However, few would venture onto its surface for fear of the Anzati population. The Anzati themselves were mostly human in appearance, with their most notable difference from humans being two tendrils extending from their cheeks, although these were retractable as well. These appendages were used by the Anzati to eat what they called soup, an irresistible substance to Anzati made from the brains and life essence of other sentient beings, which they sucked directly from the heads of their still living victims. To enable this, the Anzati were generally much stronger than their build would suggest as well. An Anzat could also live for thousands of years, with the first introduced in Star Wars, Danik Jericho, the first seen in the Mos Eisley Cantina in Episode 4, and later given a backstory with the introduction of soup in Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina in 1995. Anzati were typically not given names by their parents, instead being left to decide a name for themselves. They were considered to have reached maturity at the age of 100, when they typically left their planet, which had a rather low population, and began the hunt for soup. Basically, as you can probably tell, the Anzati were largely based on the mythos of vampires in the real world. Anzati were often sought for their skill as assassins and hunters, with many serving the Confederacy of Independent Systems during the Clone Wars. In order to help lull unsuspecting victims to become their next feast, the Anzati used a form of telepathy, which may have been a type of communication with the Force. And as I mentioned, the need to eat this so-called soup was often irresistible and grew as they aged, leading to a general fear among the galaxy for Anzati. And despite often being Force sensitive, because of this part of their nature, the Jedi were wary of taking them on as members of their order. There are at least a few occasions where this fear was ignored, and in both of the most notable cases, the Anzati in question did turn to the dark side. First is Volfe Karko, who was hundreds of years old before even starting his Jedi training. Karko served the Order well and started to believe himself to be above the species' need for soup, deciding that he could try it once with no risks. Unfortunately, this led to an addiction, and after trying it, he began to slowly feed on other Jedi around him, and fell to the dark side. The Jedi Council intervened, and after a long battle on the planet Kifex, imprisoned him in its stasis. But during his millennium in stasis, he began to call other Anzati to him through the Force, leading to his enslavement of several Anzati who became feral in his service. The other famous Anzati Jedi was named Nikos Tiras, a Jedi who became disillusioned with the Order during the Clone Wars and founded the Jinsari, or Hidden Followers of the Truth, based on a mix of Jedi and Sith teachings sourced from Volfe Karko's holocron. Tiras would be killed soon after in a battle with Corran Horn's grandfather Nija Halcyon, which claimed both of their lives, although the teachings of the Jinsari would continue on. That's going to do it for this first look at the Anzati. If you have any feedback or suggestions for future videos, whether other species or other topics in general, please leave them in the comments. As annoying as it is to hear, things like commenting, liking, and turning notifications on really do help the channel grow, so if you've enjoyed the video, please consider doing any of that stuff. As always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.